Alright, welcome. So, I'm going to complete the lecture, and in the previous one, we discussed the part 1 and part A of our lecture. We spoke about general idea about the final FRCR part A examination, and then we spoke generally about sources that can be used to study FRCR. In this part, we're gonna complete and discuss how to choose between these sources to make your plan. So it's all about making the plan. It's of course the most important part of our lecture. Firstly, we should say that this plan should depend on your time, your work experience, and your previous reading and studying. This is a general idea. Why? Because it makes a difference whether you have 3 4 months before the exam and you're gonna start prepare to the exam, or you may have 1 year. It makes difference whether you have a good experience in reporting CT and MRI, or you didn't even make this before. And I'm gonna start with what's called avoid myth. What does I mean by avoid myth? In fact, I just noted that there are many concepts about the exam which I don't see it is right, and I see these are misleading. They mislead you. Like what? Like deciding that one book or another book is enough for the exam, or just or like saying you need 3 4 5 MCQ books to pass the exam, and to say or to determine a fixed number of books that you need to pass the exam, just to pick up one of MCQ books and tell others that that question come from these books. All of these are not true information. Oh, crack the core is only enough to tackle the exam. Or on the other side, someone says crack the core do not does not even consider it a book, and it is just notes, and you should search, you study from text books. Crack the core is a book of American Bird. It's not true to study from it for the FRCR. In fact, all of these words, all of these concepts are not true. The preparation for the exam is not about how many books you're gonna study from them, how many times you're gonna study this book. Actually, the process is more deeper to think about, or to think of it. Uh, then I just want to clarify why I consider these things as myth. In fact, because experience from others is important, of course, but what others had said about the way they pass doesn't mean that you will pass if you do it. By this I mean is that some people, for example, after one had passed the exam, he tells them that he studied crack the core 1 time, and then he studied 1 2 3 4 5 MCQ books and tell us their names, and then he repeated first, second, third book for the second time, and then he passed the exam. And then after that, you find that some candidates, some doctors, all of what they are thinking of is just following these steps step by step, and then waiting to pass. And they may pass, and they may not pass. If they don't pass, oh, why did I fail? I am depressed, I am suppressed, I don't know what I can do more to pass the exam. So the second thing is that when someone tell us a review about how he studied or the sources, the books did he use to study, this doesn't mean that he passed the exam because he did this. In fact, this person may have experience, maybe doing CT and MRI well, maybe has had his training in a good hospital, a good teaching hospital with a good staff, with good professor, and all of these multifactorial led to build his knowledge and enhance his preparation well, so as he could pass the exam. The third point um, is that if you look or if you look at the exam and say the pass mark of the exam and the average score after every exam, to everyone who takes the exam, uh, there is what's called pass mark and average score. For example, in in winter, in spring, in any exam, they tell you that to pass the exam, the pass mark of the exam is, for example, 149. For example, just numbers, and that the average candidate's score was 152, 151. Of course, this is statistical average score. What you will note is that most of time there is 3 2 marks difference between the pass mark and the average score only, meaning that many candidates has passed the exam uh, just by scoring 1 2 3 4 marks above the pass mark, and many candidates also uh, uh, didn't fall, although the fact they were away 1 or 2 or 3 marks to pass, meaning that not everyone who passed the exam yeah, or the difference between them was not that high, and the difference in their studying may not be that high. So, not every review from every candidate is a valid way to follow. So, what is the fact that we should know? The fact is that only FRCR2A needs a deep knowledge of radiology, and you should build a good knowledge and train yourself well to pass the exam. And candidates who studied hard and took the exam know that the exam is well and deeply structured one, and there are variable methods that may lead to do the trick and pass the exam. And what you should do is that you should search for the suitable method for you to make the trick and to build the knowledge, train yourself enough to pass the exam. Let's start and saying what is the first option you have is studying from textbook. Of course, if you have time, studying from a textbook is an advantageous thing. Why it is an advantageous thing? Or because it is a normal practice for everyone doing radiology in general, not exam, is that he should have a basic knowledge in his mind regarding the science or the branch of medicine that he work. And the best way to do this is to study. And to study from a textbook will be better. But so the issue now we are speaking about preparation for the exam. So what if you, for any reason, for reason related to your work, to anything, you decided just to to take the exam and started studying 3, 4, 5 months before the exam. Should you study from textbook or not? I think you should make what's called a trial. What's making a trial? Making a trial is that you, for example, if you choose primer or you choose Kringer Essential or whatever, and you will say, for example, I will start by studying chest, and chest and primer is about 60, 65 pages. So I'll start studying this subject, this branch, this module, and look how much time it will take me to finish it, and finish it well after I build the knowledge, the necessary knowledge. And for example, it took you 1 week, 1 week and a half, 2 week, depends. You will at this point you can look a wider in a wider manner and say, will it suitable to complete studying from textbook for preparation for this exam specifically, or you won't have the time, and after that you will decide after to ignore studying from textbook now, or you will postpone your exam. This is the thing that you should do while you're deciding to study from textbook or not. And of course, don't search for bigger textbook, and don't follow anyone who can tell you, for example, study from Saturn or something like that. It doesn't need, and you should build basic information, and it's enough to build it from primer or Granger Essential or these similar books. And of course they are not enough, but after that you will increase your knowledge by looking at papers at websites like Radiopedia, Radiology Assistant, and so on, and studying from MCQ books itself will build your knowledge. The second step in deciding your plan is crack the core. I think that Crack the Core is still one of the best sources to study from them in preparation of radiology exam, whether FRCR, whether American board, and whether your national board. Crack the Core, Crack the Core is a small book. It's really a small book. Uh, don't afraid that this book is about 900 pages. In fact, most of the pages are 5, 6, 8 lines if you compare them with the textbooks, of course. And regardless of that, it contains tremendous amount of information that is formatted in the way that touch the exam points. So you should study from Crack the Core, in my opinion, of course. And how many times you should study? It depends on you. It depends on your time, and in fact, it depends about how can you get after studying the Crack the Core. Normally, when someone studies a book for one time, he do not retain a significant amount of information, and mostly he needs another time, perhaps to another time, to other times to retain the information well, to understand it well, to keep it well. So there is no fixed number to study, one or two or three. Just you should study the way you absorb this information well. Just I made a note here about the summary in the last chapter. In Crack the Core, in the last chapter of Crack the Core, there is about 40, 45 pages. They are writing the most important information of what is the rating of the book. Some people may tell you that if you have no time, don't study Crack the Core, and just study these these pages. They are really not enough, of course. They are really not enough. And you can't ignore textbook and then ignore crack the core and then come to study these information and just and saying that they are enough and most of the exam come from them. No, no, don't do that like this. And Dr. Mahmoud Rizq, he is one of our colleagues, and he prepared a PowerPoint or PDF. Both of them are present. There are 100 slides. He collects the summary in the crack the core in the last chapter and added some little information, and you can use it instead of the summary, but you will study crack the core, or it's good work to study from crack the core. The third thing to make in your plan is to train yourself on MCQs. Just a minute. So what are the sources of MCQ? We have books and we have the online bank we spoke about in the first part of the lecture, in the second part of the lecture. This online or these books, when to start to study from them? I think you should start studying MCQ as you start studying. What does I mean? I mean, you started to study from textbook, or you will not study from a textbook and just to study from crack the core in any of your choices after making your plan. Just as you study the information, the chest, cardiothoracic, neuro, or whatever. At the same time, start studying from MCQ. Some people will say that, for example, I'm studying now chest tumors, but if I open the MCQ book, I will say that all cardiovascular are randomly. All right, you have two options. The first option is to look for the online bank, and the question in the online bank are classified. The second option is that one of our colleagues, Dr. Abdullah Nuh, made what's called classified MCQ. What is the classified MCQ? He classify every branch, for example, chest, cardiac, neuro, orbit, neck, and so on. And for under chest, he make another classification to tumors, interstitial lung disease, infection, mediastinum, pleura. And after every sub section, he collected all questions from all MCQ books and put them under every subsection after every subsection, and so you can study a question on tumors, on infection, and so on. So what you will do, in my opinion, is that while you are studying for the first time, for example, I'm studying now neurodegenerative disease. All right, I will either, if I have the online bank, I will do the MCQ from the online bank on this topic on neurodegenerative disease, or I will open this PDF of Dr. Abdullah of classified MCQ, and I will choose about the question on neurodegenerative from one or two books, one or two MCQ books. So I will start training on MCQ early. This will fix my information. After you don't have to do all your studying or your MCQ studying from these classified sources. Just to do one or two books, for example, Ford and all the get through or something like that. And after that, start doing MCQ in a classic way. You open the cardiovascular module and do it. You open the central nervous system and do it. because in fact that doing MCQ in a classified manner has its disadvantages, because it trains you that it guides you about the pathology. You of course do the pathology on tumors or in infection or in inflammatory disease or neurodegenerative disease. It's better to do it randomly. So after you made one turn on MCQ on textbook, or one turn on crack the core, after that do MCQ without classification. Just do it randomly. Uh, this is when and this is how to study normal or classified. How many books do you have to repeat them? How many books? It depends on your time and your knowledge. You have to repeat them. I will tell you the trick. The trick there is that while you are doing MCQ, you should have the pen and you should mark the question that you did it falsely, in a false manner, or you did it right. You do it right, but at the same time, you was in doubt when you choose your choice. You was not sure. You were not sure. So you will make a mark on this question, and after 3 or 4 books, you can look again at this question instead of doing all the book again. This is a valid method. It's a time-saving method. What's called marking a question. You will mark the questions that you did wrong, or the questions that you did right but you was not sure about the answer when you choose it. These questions only you gonna repeat them, and don't repeat everything again. And just in my opinion, these are the best of the group of MCQ books available. Get through the new version. Old get through Oxford and Korea. The second thing, of course, is that this doesn't mean that the exam comes from these books. It is a mess. People in the Royal College are very, very professional, and just thinking that they use our books to formulate the MCQ exam is just a myth. It's a great myth. Moreover, they, as I said previously, they said deliberately in the website, in the guide, that that they don't not repeat the question until after 3 or 4 exam, and when if they repeat a question, so they change its shape, and that they said that these books are not true to study from them. It's not true to study from them, and at the same time, they consider these books as breaking the law when they try to collect recalls for the exam. In my opinion, if you finished these books, consider studying core review series. Do you remember core review series? Let's go back. This is the series. It is the American board preparation series. Although it's formulated on the board, although the fact that it is about image and the question on this image, but they are good books, and they will build your knowledge well, and still the difference between the way of formulating the question in these books and in other MCQ books of FRCR, the difference is not great. And in generally, these questions are tailored in more scientific way than our books, and there are new versions from these books. If you compare this to FRCR books, most of them are very old books, except New Get Through. The rest are about 10 years away. Let's go back. So I recommend to study these four books. And of course, as I said previously, don't it's not it will be a myth if I told you that you should study these books, or you should study these books only. By the way, when I took my exam, I haven't the time to study Oxford, but I know that Oxford is a good book. So, and I passed the exam. So let's do not make a mess and tell you that you should study from these books. I just tell you my opinion that they are, in my opinion, better than other books. And tell you, of course, if you would these books, and if you gonna make the online bank, it's paid, so it's your decision. If you don't have the enough money, or you found it load on your shoulder, many candidates pass the exam without the online bank, so it's your decision only. Don't be afraid. And if you have the time, do the core review series. Core review series, as I said, they are very, very big. And for every branch, not for every module, for every branch, there is a book. So before you studying, look at how many books, what time you have, and choose. For you may choose one or two, three books, and of course they are classified. And under CNS, you will find tumors, you will find inflammatory degenerative disease, infection, and so on. So you should have a look before you start to study, to decide what you will study and what you will not study. All right. Uh, and in addition to that, consider listening to what's called FRCR songs, because they are really good. This is the way you will make your plan. The other thing included in this lecture is some other pieces of advice. The first thing is that you should define your weak points and work on them. What does I mean? For example, you found yourself that when you do an MCQ related to neurodegenerative disease in the CNS, that every time you are not sure, and you just choose anything, it turns out to be wrong, and then you just read the explanation. So what you should do? Oh, I have a weak point in this topic. I will go to textbook. I will go to Radiopedia and study it well. So when it comes again, I will be in a stronger position to answer the question. Another example I put it for here is the CT scan in head injuries. يعني it's a common question to tell you about a trauma in pediatric age group, or in adult age group, or in old age group, and give you some data and tell you when the CT will be indicated, after one at this entrance, or after how many hours, and so on. So what you should do, you haven't the solid information. Instead of just trying to keep by heart the answer of the MCQ, you could go back to one of the trusted websites, British website, for example, even the patient information. Patient information is a British website. It has some articles for people in general, and some article for medical professional doctors. You can to all them. Oh, this image. I took it as a print screen from the website. This is the link of the patient information. So I will look. Oh, this is the indication of children. Oh, I should do a CT scan of the brain in the following indication, and I will read it. I will study it. So if a question comes again considering this topic, I will do it simply, and because I know the whole picture regarding this question. So while you are studying, the whole period you are studying, and you are preparing for the exam, you will make like this. So gradually you will strengthen your weak points gradually. This will help you much. So it's not just doing MCQ and trying to keep this information by heart. And some people, for example, when you see a point MCQ that a patient has, so the diagnosis is, for example, number B. So some doctors do it like that. They copy the question and copy the answer and put them together uh, in a word file, and then try to keep it. Instead of doing this, of that thing, it's better to try to build the knowledge gradually and to strengthen the weak points. I have a weak point in chest tumor, and I have a weak point in in hip MRI or hip joint disease. So I will read this point, I will read about this point, and so on while I'm studying crack the core or the textbook, and while I'm doing the MCQ. And by the way, of course, we it of course during studying the MCQ, I will read the explanation and understand it. It's not just doing the MCQ. And the second piece of advice is that studying differential diagnosis is really important. I just made two examples. Let's take lung fibrosis. When I know that scleroderma, asbestosis, rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus, amiodarone are among causes that cause basal lung fibrosis. So when I will easy make the link when he tell me that a patient has lung fibrosis, basal lung fibrosis, and at the same time he has a long history of arrhythmia. And at this point, oh, I can think, yes, it is maybe amiodarone, because of amiodarone, or he told me that he has GIT problem and the esophagus is dilated. He may be scleroderma. So studying differential diagnosis generally is very important for exam and for real life reporting. The point is how to study differential diagnosis. The best way is not to pick up a book of differential diagnosis and try to keep it by heart. It's really difficult and you will forget most of the data. The best way is again, while you are studying and while you are doing MCQ, you start to make notes of the differential diagnosis that you come across, and collect them and study them. And at the same time, of course, if you took the decision that I will speak about after 1 minute to have a look at one of the cases books, these books will really build your differential diagnosis because it's built on this fact. He give you image. Of course, there are finding in the image, and after that, you should say the diagnosis and the differential diagnosis. And in the answer, he tell you why we pick this diagnosis among the other differential diagnoses. This way is really build your differential diagnosis in a fast manner. So stack of coins. What I mean by stack of coins, I just put this slide because after the last exam, many of us started saying that they deliberately is trying to take out the key points or removing the key words from the exam question. For example, instead of saying that any patient, for example, patient A, patient B, has some clinical data and has barium that shows stack of the coin. They do not say stack of coin, and instead they will tell you that the small bowel folds are smoothly and uniformly thickened. And many people consider this a method of the real college to make the exam difficult. Anyway, يعني I will not discuss this, but what I want to discuss is while you are studying, doing MCQ, studying crack the core, just don't try to just link a name of a sign to a disease. You should understand what does this sign mean, what stack coins mean, what is what leads to formation of stack of coins. Not just, oh yes, I'm looking, and when I see stack the coin in image, I can see it's stack of coins. And when I see stack of coins, I will see this patient has, for example, ischemia or vasculitis or Nostradamus berbera or these causes that I wrote. Instead of this, I understand that stack of coins occurs because there is smooth and uniform thickening of the folds of small bowel because of the hemorrhage. This will make the studying more easier, more logic, and will guard you against being tricked in the exam. All right, before we complete, because we are about to finish, I just want to tell you that if you have time, and you, especially if you don't report CT or MR, or you don't report, or you are not working in a scientific place, when doing this reporting is done in a scientific manner, you sh- it would be a good thing to study CT or R from a case book, and you can choose one of the book we choose here, or we tell you top three differential diagnosis. For example, it's a small book, or Duke Radiology, or Antimini. You can choose top three differential diagnosis. It will build your differential diagnosis. It will fix your information because it is easier to fix the information when there is image and there is question on this image and there is differential diagnosis and there is discussing for this differential diagnosis. Of course, before you take this step, you should make it well or put it well in the plan so as you are not being shifted away from your basic studying for the exam. Alright, Radiology Cafe and Radio Gain. I'm not sure about the pronunciation again. You can look at them, and they also have their advice about how to tackle the exam. In summary, we are about to finish. Read about the exam from the website of Royal College of Radiology. Choose appropriate time to take the exam. Make a good plan. And if you have time, study a textbook after making the trial to make sure that you will have time. Study Crack the Core, in my opinion. Do some MCQ books, and we spoke how to study these books, marking the question, how many books, and all of these. Strength your weak points. Look at textbook, look at websites, and so on. Have a good differential diagnosis. And I don't write it deliberately. I will leave it for you. If you have time, look at one of the cases books. Don't assume there is a secret that you have discovered to pass, and the secret is the new get through, and the exam comes from new get through. These myths, they are not true. There is no secret. The secret is that you should build your knowledge in a good knowledge to pass the exam. The exam questions are not from a specific MCQ book. Royal College is a professional authority. Passing the exam while you are not don't have acceptable knowledge of radiology is very difficult and is exception. Many candidates pass every year. Many candidates. So if they can do it, all of us can do it. What you should do in the day of the exam, how you should control your time. We can speak about this in another recording. And thanks.